All right, Mike, a key characteristic of rugby is that sort of spirit and camaraderie. So what first attracted you to rugby? Why rugby opposed to other sports?
Yeah, I think it was the inclusivity of rugby, the fact that any shapes and sizes can go and play a sport all together, all different people from different backgrounds. I was a skinny rake when I was a kid.
Were you always a fullback?
No, I wanted to be a fly-half, the main man. I wasn't good enough to play then. And then when I was about 16, got moved to fullback, which suited me much better, obviously. But yeah, being a skinny kid, it was great to still be able to go and play such a physical, aggressive sport with guys that were bigger than myself, smaller, short, tall.
Yeah, it's definitely a unique sport in that regard, isn't it? And it's a fairly well-used phrase, but shapes and sizes, it doesn't matter whether you were fast or slow. It just doesn't matter. It's always been a really good sport. I love the fact that I could play lots of different positions. So I remember being a flanker and loved the physicality of it, and then I just wasn't growing at the pace of everybody else. But then I loved having the ball in my hand, so I wanted to play fly half as well.
Yeah. You were well known as being a vocal scrum half, but how did you balance that with being respectful to the officials?
That's very kind of you. That's very kind of you to suggest that I was respectful to the officials, because if there are any of the officials who were watching, they were like, it was an absolute blooming nightmare.
Yeah, I think I'd be the same in that same bracket as well.
We were cut from the same cloth there, really, weren't we?
So.
I deep down absolutely have a respect for the officials. Incredibly tough job to do. You can't necessarily talk to the officials now like we used to. But part of that was a chemistry. With the right officials, there was real chemistry on the pitch, and it would be looked at now as being disrespectful, but it absolutely wasn't. It's always been the same within the game, hasn't it? That when the officials say something, that's the way that it is, and it doesn't matter how much you argue, it's never going to change.
Yeah.
Whereas previously, well, no, it doesn't. And it doesn't stop you throwing.
Doesn't stop me anyway.
We could throw them a little, as you run into the next breakdown, you'd be saying to them, what's going on there? And if you've got someone like Ed Morrison or Tony Spreadbury back in the day, there would be the most obvious of knock-ons, and everyone would be like, knock on, spreaders, knock on, and you just hear this Bristolian, play on, play on. You just think, oh my, it was. Yeah, I mean, it was a fabulous relationship, but of course, what was very different back then is that when the pressure was on, when it got really intense, and there wasn't necessarily that humour behind it, you were maybe being a little bit too verbal. You couldn't get away with that now, though, could you?
I think, for me, I don't mind it in rugby. Like, as long as it's, like you said, respectful enough. I think it shows the guys' competitiveness. Like, you're not just going to accept things all the time.
How many yellow cards have you had in your career?
2.
How many red cards have you had?
Let's not talk about that, because it's a sensitive subject at the moment.